Recording in progress.
Okay, good morning, friends. Shalom Aleichem. Okay, we have an interesting Sugya. This is going on in the Gemara. We actually didn't have a chance to review it yesterday. The Gemara says on Kuf Aleph Amud Beis, the first Gemara on the new parak, Hanoisi Asoisha, Itmar Ha'imar Lechaveroi Chayiv Ani Lecha Maneh. Someone who says to his friend, I am chayiv to you one maneh. So he obligates himself to a maneh. So Gemara says, Rabbi Yochanan Amar Chayiv, Reish Lakish Amar Pater. Rabbi Yochanan says you're chayiv, and Reish Lakish says you are pater. Let me get up the Marmakaimus here. Share. Okay, here. So the Ha'imel Chaver Chayiv Ani Lecha Maneh. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Chayiv, Reish Lakish Amar Pater. Heichi Dami. What's the case? If he tells the people standing, you are my witnesses, my taima, Reish Lakish to pater, what would the reasoning of Reish Lakish be that you're pater? If he doesn't say you are my witnesses, my taima de Rabbi Yochanan to chayiv, what's the reason for Rabbi Yochanan who says chayiv? Says Gemara, really? We're talking about where he didn't say to him atamedai. What are we talking about? The Amar Le Chayiv Ani Lecha Mana B'Shtar, where he says to him, I am obligated to you a mana in a shtar. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Chayiv. Rabbi Yochanan says Chayiv Alima Milsa D'Shtara Command the Amar Lehu Atamedim. Rabbi Yochanan says you're Chayiv because the shtar is strong enough as if he said to them, you are my witnesses. Dami Reish Lakish Amar Pater Loi Alima Milsa D'Shtara. So we're not talking about where a guy designated Edim and said, you are my Edim, that I'm Chayiv, but rather he wrote in a shtar that he's Chayiv and he gave it over to Edim. Let's see Rashi. The Rashi on this Maramakim is not so clear, so I hope if you have the Gemara in front of you, Rashi Divrei Hamaschel La'olam Deloi Amar Lehu Atamedai V'achav Mayaskinan B'Shtara. Says Rashi, Shemasar Le'Shtar B'Fanenu. He gave the creditor a shtar before to Edim. V'kasav B'I, and it's written in the shtar, Ani Chayiv Lecha Maneh. I am Chayiv to you a maneh. V'yafal Pi Sheksav Yadayu. Even though it's his handwriting, but he didn't sign it. Normally, if there's just a ksav yadai without a chasima, you're pater. This that we learned in the Mishnah, if he pulls out his ksav yad that he's chayiv, you could collect from the chasam neichayrim. That's when he signed it. So there are no edim on it, but he signed it. So then he could collect from the chasim bnei cham kidmuchak perko isha shenas armala damar Abaye lichtoiv chasimas yadei achasba aval amagil toloi. A person could write his signature on a chasba, but not on parchment. Taima duma mishkachle, it might be found. And hoitzi olav ksav yadai. So alma b'chasimas yadai kamayri. In the Gemara, but the Gemara earlier, that if you write in your own handwriting that you're chayiv, it's a valid shtar. That's if you sign it. But if it was never signed, then just a shtar, an IOU, I owe Pliny money, you cannot collect with it. So in this case, it's a ksav yad that he's chayiv maneh, and he didn't sign it, but he did give it to the creditor, and he gave it in front of Edim. So the question is the fact that it's in a shtar, is it like, since he handed it to the guy in front of Edim, is it like he said atam Edim? That's how Rashi learns. Presumably what this means is, that he is being moideh, that he owes money. Not this creates the chiyuv. This is a proof that he previously owed money. Not that he's being mechayiv himself with the shtar, but that he wants the shtar to serve as proof that he in the past had this his chayvas. That's how Rashi learns. Not that he's makneh the choiv with the shtar, but the shtar serves as evidence that this choiv exists. Tosfos on Kuf Beis Amud Aleph, Tosfos brings V'shuv shamati mi Rabboisai kedivrei kedvarai. Okay, Rabbeinu Tam mefarish kula sugya b'loi haida shlo hayachayiv loikum metchila. Tosfos learns the sugya is talking about without an admission. He wasn't chayiv anything to him in the beginning. V'ha dekamar chayiv ani l'chamana b'shtar. That which he says, I am chayiv amana in the shtar. Hainu b'shtar gomer. It's a complete shtar. Shechasmu hitev. He signed it. Not like Rashi that he didn't sign it. He signed it. He wants to be meshabed and obligate himself with the shtar. Rashi learns he's not mechayiv himself with the shtar. He was already chayiv. The shtar will serve as evidence that he was already chayiv. Tosfos learns that he wants to be mechayiv himself with the shtar, so Tosfos learns that he signed it. Uvaha pligi Rabbi Yochanan savar. This is what they argue on. Rabbi Yochanan savar alima milsa deshtara laaknuye b'shtarze k'may shahida b'fnei edim. Rabbi Yochanan learns that the shtar is strong to be makneh, like if you would be maida before edim. And a little later on the line, Tosfos says, well, wait a second. You could be makneh, a shibud with a shtar. Think about it. When you're makneh a hischayvos, you're not makneh karka, you're makneh metaltalin. Could you be makneh metaltalin with a shtar? Ein l'tmaya hechi mishtabed b'shtar zeh, ha ein metaltalin niknem b'shtar. Metaltalin is not nikna b'shtar. The Yeshloimer dehol v'torach lemichtav shtara. Says Tosfos, since you were matriach to write a shtar, gomar u'mishabed nafshe. Shaharei afilu ba'amira ba'alma yeshram shaniknem. There are things that you could transfer even with amira. So Tosfos is bothered. How could you be mishtabed or makneh metaltalin with a shtar? Tosfos says the svara, since you were matriach to write the shtar, you were gomar u'mishabed nafsha. Let's see the Rambam. The Rambam in Hilchos Mechira, Perak Yud Aleph Halacha Tesvav, Hamachayiv Atzmai B'mamayin La'achar B'loi T'nai Klal. Someone who obligates himself monetarily to someone else without any stipulation. Afal Pishol Haya Chayiv Loi Klum. Even though until now he wasn't chayiv anything. Harei Zachayiv. Now you're chayiv. Shadavar Zeh Matanahi. This is a matana. It's not an asmachta. So the Rambam learns that you could be mechayiv yourself with amira ba'alma. Keitzad ha'omer l'edim, someone who says to edim, Hevu alai edim, you should be edim shani chayiv leploni mana, that I'm chayiv a mana to ploni. Oisha kasav loy b'shtar, or he wrote in a shtar, hareini chayiv l'cha mana, afal pi she'ein sham edim, even if there aren't edim. Oisha amar loy b'fnei edim, or he said in front of edim, hareini chayiv l'cha mana b'shtar. He said in front of edim, I am chayiv a mana in the shtar. Afal pi sheloy amar atam edai. Hol v'amar b'shtar, since he said b'shtar, he said in front of Edim, I am chayiv to this guy amana in the shtar. Or he wrote in the shtar, I am chayiv amana. In all of these cases, hareze kamisha amar heve alai Edim. It's as if he said, you should be Edim, b'chayiv l'shalem. And he has to pay afal pi sheshnei moedim, even though they're both agree, even though they both agree, and the Eidim know, there was no hischayvus. He never owed the money. But now he's mechayiv himself. Sharei chayiv atzmai. K'may she'ishtabed ha'arev. Just like a cosigner. An arev wasn't chayiv, but he's mechayiv himself. So just like a cosigner could be mechayiv himself for my loan, I could be mechayiv myself for a loan that never happened. So the Rambam is taking it further than Tosfos, because Tosfos is learning the guy wrote and signed the shtar and handed it in front of Eidim. Here, the Rambam paskins, someone who says to Eidim, be Eidim that I'm chayiv to ploini amaneh, or he wrote in a shtar, hareini chayiv l'chamaneh, even if they're not Eidim, or he said in front of Eidim, I am chayiv amaneh b'shtar, even though he didn't say atamedai. Says the Maggid Mishnah, where did the Rambam get this from? Look in the Maggid Mishnah. Hamachayiv atzav v'mamayin la'acher b'Kesuvos parak hanoisei k'moy she'izbar. The sources are Gemara. Gar sinan b'hanoisei. The Gersa in the Gemara is Itmar ha'im l'chaver chayiv ani l'chamaneh. Rabbi Yochanan amar chayiv Reish Lakish amar pater. And the Gemara says heichidami, and the Gemara answers La'olam d'loi amar l'hu atamedai. You didn't say atamedai. V'hachmai askina she'amar le'chayiv ani l'chamaneh b'shtar. Rabbi Yochanan says, Alima milsa the shtar command amar atamedai, and Reish Lakish says, pater. So now, Rashi learned, you wrote in a shtar that I'm chayiv, and you gave it in front of Eidim. But the Rambam says you wrote in the shtar and chayiv, even though there aren't Eidim. And the Maggid Mishnah says, "V'zeh pirush hamachaber." This the Rambam explains the Fihanira that ha'omer chayiv ani l'cha pirush shabalas chayiv b'loy halva. Not like Rashi that he is mechayiv himself to a previous loan. He's mechayiv himself now to a loan that never happened. He's mechayiv himself to the guy. Di b'halva. Because if we're talking about a halva, via machlokosam b'koifer achar shahoida lo yachoiv, and we're talking about where he denies after having already admitted, meaning according to Rashi, what's the case? The case is the guy is saying that he's chayiv the money that he previously borrowed. Well, if he says that, so then he should have to pay it. Oh no, it has to be talking about where now he denies it. Well then, that's an important piece of information that's missing from the Gemara. In other words, the reason why Tosfos argues on Rashi, according to Rashi, where the guy is admitting to a previous debt, then of course he has to pay. Oh no, he's denying it now. Well, why didn't the Gemara say that the case is he's denying it now? So the Rambam also learns he's mechayiv himself in a new debt. Because if he is mechayiv himself in an old debt, then the case has to be where he's denying it. The Gemara should have said he denies it. So it comes out, we have three opinions. This did not come out clear. This Dvar Yaakov. Yeah, I'll try to read it. The Dvar Yaakov points out we have three shitos in the Rishonim. He says, Yesh kan gimel shitos. Number one, Aleph, shitas Rashi. Demari shekasa b'ksav yadai. He wrote in his handwriting without a signature, b'derech haida, as a way of admission, l'sha'avar, in the past, shu chayv maneh. V'nechelku Rabbi Yochanan Shem mikivan shahayda nichtava b'shtar. Do we say, since the admission is written in a shtar, hava haida, that's a valid haida, or shegam al haida b'shtar, or could you, even on a admission in a shtar, could the guy say, I wrote in the shtar, I was just joking. So Rabbi Yochanan holds, Alima milsa the shtara, that you can't say, I'm just fooling around. Even though he didn't say atamedai, a shtar is significant enough that the guy can't say I was fooling around when I admitted. And Rashi adds, that we're talking about where you gave over the shtar in front of Edom. And he brings the Maram Shif that if he didn't hand it over in front of Edom, there's no real hoida. Meaning a shtar alone would not be a valid hoida. It's in conjunction with the fact that you gave it over in front of Edom. The shita of Rabbeinu Tam is that in the Havamina we're talking about an admission for a past debt. Aval maskana, but in the end, when we say hachab mayaskinan, where chayv ani lechamana b'shtari, it's talking about where you're coming to mechayev anuas chayvas, and the question is, could you be mechayev anuas chayvas through a shtar, or do we say is it like metaltalin that it's not nikna b'shtar? Now he brings from the Ran and the Ritva that why didn't Rashi want to learn like Tosfos, that we're talking about a new hischayvas, because Rashi holds it's not shaykh to be mechayiv a hischayvas in a shtar, because hischayvas is metaltalin, which is not nikna b'shtar. By the way, you could argue and say maybe Rashi would agree to Tosfos that potentially you could be mechayiv a hischayvas in a shtar, but since the Havamina was talking about a previous debt, so in the Maskana, Rashi feels we're not falling off of that. We're still talking about a previous debt. The Rambam, the third way to learn the Gemara, and the Rama learns the Gemara Kapashtos, that you're moide in front of Edom, that you're chayiv amana b'shtar. And even though there's no chiyuv, there's a new hischayvas. Even though you didn't say atamedai, since you said you're chayiv in the shtar, it's as if you say atamedai. So according to the Rambam, again, according to Tosfos, we're talking about a hischayvos chadasha. And the question is, could you be mechayiv a hischayvos chadasha al yedei shtar? According to the Rambam, we're talking about where you're moide in front of Edom, that you're chayiv to your friend a Mana b'shtar. I'm not sure how is the Rambam different than Tosfos. You see, Tosfos learns that the hischayvus is chal through kinyan shtar. The Rambam seems to say the hischayvus is chal without the shtar, but the guy's saying that he's chayiv in the shtar. I mean, Tosfos learns the shtar is creating the hischayvus. According to the Rambam, it's the amira that's creating the hischayvus. It's ha'imar la'edim, havi la'edim shani chayv leploni mana. So that's like saying atamedai. Or he wrote in a shtar harini chayiv. Or sha'amar loy b'fnei edim harini chayv l'chamana b'shtar. So according to the Rambam, it's not the shtar that's creating the hischayvus, it's the amira, by saying that I have a hischayvus in the shtar, that creates a new hischayvus. I just want to point out just one thing. The Shach says, why didn't Rashi learn that we're talking about where he's mechayiv himself now? Why does Rashi say we're talking about where he's admitting to a past debt? So the Shach says it because Rashi would hold that you can't be makna his chayvos through a shtar. The Shach says, Ula Rashi b'chol gavni loy mahani kishemes chayiv achshav. According to Rashi, in all circumstances, it doesn't help if you're mechayiv now. Kamasha kasa beis Yosef v'das Rashi v'chein pirish b'shiltei gibayrim. B'shem Riaz, Zoshen Habalas Chai b'davar shein mechuyev bayeh. someone who is coming to be chayiv in something that he's not chayiv in, b'makayim, in a situation where there's no marriage, chibas chitun kagan she'amar hareini mechuyev litin l'chamana, afal pisha amar le'edim atem edai, v'afal pisha kasav le'shtar chasam u'masar le. Even though he writes a shtar signed, hareza eina maschav elam ken kana miyadai. Rashi holds you can't transfer a hischayvus through a shtar. So at least these are two basic ways of learning the Gemara. Rashi learns the guy's admitting to a past debt, and Tosfos says the guy is mechayiv himself now. According to Tosfos, the kinyan is through the shtar. The Rambam seems to learn the kinyan is not through the shtar. The kinyan is through the amira, when you say that there is a hischayvus through a shtar. Okay, these are the various ways of learning this sugya. In terms of this week, Monday and Tuesday, yeah. But next week, I'm away a little bit, so I think I'm going to try to do an Amud tonight. Tonight's Amud is extremely short. It will probably be around 8:30 tonight. Okay, Hatzlacha Rabba. Kol Tov, have a good day. See you around.